Today we are talking about the rhythm of space and time, and specifically the circadian rhythm of magic. And this is in part prompted because I'm reading this really fascinating book called Your Brain is a Time Machine by Dean Buonmano. Um, as all of you know, or maybe you don't know, but now you know, I've written a few books on space-time magic over the years. In fact, I'm about to come out with the fourth book, Tower Time, which has been co-written by myself and Sheena. And then I am coming out with a fifth book called Retroactive Magic later this year. So I'm really excited about both of those books coming out. We're just about to put Tower Time into a neat little bow. But I'm also in the process of getting ready to write what'll be the sixth book in the Space Time Magic series. And so part of that is continuing to do some research. And I started reading this book, Your Brain is a Time Machine, which I'll just hold up again. And it's been really fascinating to me because it's kind of exploring how the neuroscience and the physiology of time. And what really drew me into reading about it or exploring it was some of the experiments that I've been doing lately in the last couple of years, where what I've been focusing on is the use of of blindfolds with my meditation experiences in order to create like a deeper sense of meditative consciousness, but essentially to also kind of fool me, if you will, because I'm blocking off a source of light and seeing how my body lands with that physiologically. And what I've discovered is that when I use a blindfold, I do end up having a deeper meditative state because the light isn't there. It's not activating things as much, and so it actually leads to a much deeper state of altered consciousness. So this book kind of got me fascinated. Now, welcome, Sheena and Amen. Thank you, Sheena, for confirming that the sound is good this time around. uh We're still figuring out the vagaries of some technology here, folks. It's been rather fascinating at times, a little frustrating, but hey, we're getting there. Um, so anyway, today I wanted to talk a bit about how you can experiment and explore your own circadian rhythm, the rhythm of space and time in your life, because we have this natural rhythm within us. When we think of the circadian rhythm, you probably think about it in relationship to like your sense of balance. And it's certainly true for that, but it's also your sense of timing. Like when you go to bed, when you go to sleep, and just your overall awareness of time. We tend to have a natural rhythm. And if you're fortunate enough, you're able to live on that particular rhythm in your life. Sometimes you are, sometimes you aren't. Um, But that rhythm can play a significant role in the experience of your life and the experiences that you have. And I think part of space-time magic is learning to work with that rhythm consciously. So it's learning to work with the neurobiology of time. And so that means kind of discovering what that neurobiology is and then interacting with it. Now, obviously, with what I'm talking about here, it's actually drawing on some principles of inner alchemy as well, like the inner alchemy of life work that I've done before, and applying that into the mix as well. But part of it is really just paying attention to understanding how your biology responds to and reacts to light and dark, and being able to play with those experiences and incorporate them into your magical activities and choices. One thing that can be really useful to do as well is to also consider limiting limiting your time around screens, or at least limiting when you're looking at screens. So like if you're going to bed, probably limiting the amount of screen time if you can help it. Sometimes there are circumstances where you can't because you want to talk to somebody who's living far away and you want to connect with them. That could be a screen time moment that you just have to kind of deal with. Wink, wink. But in general, I do recommend not not looking at screens after a certain point if you can help it. Um, the irony of that, the irony of that statement, at least in my particular case, is that I will usually play games for a bit later in the evening before I go to bed. But I also find that that's kind of like a decompressed time for me um, from the day's busyness. So when we talk about circadian rhythm, what we're really talking about then is this sense of light and dark and how it contributes to the rhythm of temporal awareness that we have. You know, ideally, you're going to be able to recognize that and kind of figure out like when do you wake up and when do you go to sleep and how long do you stay awake versus how long you go to sleep. One thing that I'll share with you that I find really fascinating is observing how during the cycle of the year, depending on what time of the year it is, that will affect the way that I end up experiencing like the amount of sleep that I get. Like when it's wintertime and it's darker for a longer period of time, I tend to sleep a bit more. When it's when it gets lighter out, when it's like right now, at least in the northern hemisphere, it is sunnier and the days are longer. I'm finding that I don't sleep as much, and part of that is because when the natural daylight starts to come in, my body starts to wake up. So there's that aspect here where like our bodies are so attuned to the light that it plays a role in the amount of sleep that we get. And so it can be really worthwhile to pay attention to when you're going to sleep to make sure that you're getting a full night of sleep as opposed to like staying up too late in the morning. You know, like if you're staying up until like 2 or 3 in the morning and then you find yourself getting up only a few hours later, it's probably going to be because of that circadian rhythm getting disrupted by the light. At that point, that's where you would want to wear a blindfold anyway, because you want to limit the amount of light that you're getting and that your body is picking up in terms of like your eyesight and things like that. Because even when your eyelids are closed, you can still sense sunlight. The optical receptors are there. So this is just like a very interesting thing to think about. With our space-time magic work in general, we also want to play with that sense of timing in our magical work. And one of the ways that we can do that is to experiment with the natural lighting that's available to us. Example that I've used in the past is that I would set up a room where I had the curtains drawn and I did not use any sources of light. I would do magical workings in that room whenever the day started to become more liminal because that the curtains made that room even more liminal because just enough light to come through but not too much that it kind of put it into like a twilight state. And I found that twilight state was very effective for enhancing the magical workings because what it was doing is it was creating a very liminal experience for myself and for the people involved. So I'm curious for those of you who are here right now, and feel free to drop some comments in or questions. How have you experimented with light in your own like magical work and in terms of shaping your environment and playing around with it? Because I think it can be really worthwhile to explore that question. And I'll even use this room as an example. I have a window over here. I have a ring light on right now. What I find interesting in being in this room, and I'm in this room a fair amount, is that when I chart the course of a day, I can like see how the light shifts and changes the energy of that room over the course of the day, and it changes the experience of time as well. In the sense that it's like when there's more light in here, it feels like time goes a little bit quicker. When there's less light, it feels darker. It actually feels like light slow. Like it feels like like time slows down. And I found that really interesting to consider as well, that like the amount of light or lack thereof can actually create a sense of the passage of time. It can we can experience like a dilatory effect with time because of the amount of light and the amount of dark. There's there's been some very interesting experiments which I'll talk about in a moment, but I want to read Sheena's comment out loud. Getting sunlight first thing in the morning, taking my magical time outside, starting the day by praising the sun. Yeah, great. That's a great example. I know that like I try to make it a point to go outside and walk during the day, or like do outside activities during the day at different points in time. Like tomorrow, for example, I will go out and mow my lawn, and I'll do it during the day. I'll do it like during like early morning break and then later break when I'm at my job, because that gives me a chance to get outside and just do something outside, but also because it's allowing me to get some of that experience of the sunlight, and it's bringing me into contact with the energy of that day and the sharpness and the crispness of it outside. We don't always want to be in a hermetically sealed environment here. And one of the experiments that I've read about in a few places that I found fascinating is like when people have basically been in the dark for a long period of time, their sense of time distorts. And sometimes they think that they've been in that experience for longer than they actually have been, because of the way that the dark distorts the experience of time. It kind of creates, again, this dilatory effect where time seems to lengthen and go slower than it may actually be flowing. And so this is a really interesting thing to consider, like how, like for magical rituals, how we can create very purposely and manufacture that experience of dilatory time. So one of the things that I'll do sometimes is um, I will very purposely create an environment where there is like only like a candle light, like a candle light at a given time. Or sometimes I'll do a magical working in the dark with nothing on at all as far as the lights go, because what I'm doing is I'm creating this deep sensory deprivation experience that actually seems to lengthen the amount of time and stretch it out, and it actually contributes to the overall effect of the magic. I think purposely manufacturing states of altered awareness through temporal dynamics can be a very fascinating way to get a lot of juicy magical work to occur, because we're essentially, what we're doing is we're distorting our awareness and perspective and appearance of time. And we're creating this state of flow that pushes us outside of linear time into this very nonlinear space. And it opens the doors for possibilities to come through. So this is another experiment that you can run with and play with in relationship to your experience of time. I'll have more to share about this topic in near future. I'm just doing a short video today because, as I said, I was reading this book. I've been thinking about it. I'm only like partway through the book, so I'm not very far. But it's definitely inspiring some further ideas around things that I can experiment with time, magic, and I'll be sharing those with you, because when we look at the neurophysiological aspects of time and we play with that sense of time, it does give us some very interesting tools and resources to work with magically. All right. Thanks for hopping on with me, and have a good day.